Welcome to the live stream for Monday, November 21st, where we have, I got three different sports that I'm dealing with right now. I have a big hockey slate, big, pretty decent basketball slate with just a crap load of news, and also a particularly interesting showdown slate, actually, in the NFL. We're waiting for Bobby to come on in. He was under the weather a little bit today, but it looks like he's rallied and is going to be joining us forthwith, as they say in the legal streets. So we'll just wait on him, and then we'll kind of get things going. Yeah, and and the slate is not by any means clear yet. So we still have news that I want to talk through with Bobby. What I think he might be able to agree with me on is it's probably wise to just toss out Adam, they still have COVID in Chicago. Wow, I didn't know that it still existed over there. So I hope you feel better. I did not do well in soccer. I had not this was an excuse. I started with the Iranian goalie, and it all went downhill from there. Yeah, very good, Adam. Mazel tov. Yeah, what's up? What's up, K9? One of my new projects that I'm working on right now, and I can't really get too much into it. I really want to try to help Steak Kings become like something better. I want to turn it into something that has a more interactive user experience for the stakers. We'll talk about that some other time. What's up, Bobby? How you feeling? How you feeling?
A little under the weather.
Yeah. So as I was just saying, I mean, I have three different sports I'm dealing with right now. I have hockey I'm dealing with. We have a very, very tricky basketball slate and a very interesting showdown slate. I'll do most of the talking. So if you want, so what I'll start with is again, my summary of the NBA, like for now, is first of all, there's stuff that still has to be worked out, believe it or not. We did get news that Paul George is out, and that's an island game at 10:30. After everything else is over, and while there's and we still would like to know who's starting in that game for one thing. The other thing is, even with all this other stuff going on with the Golden State. I still would like to know what's going to happen in Miami. I want to know exactly who's playing. And there's other like little sneaky bits of news to be kind of released here. One which, again, the whole slate changed, but not lost on me is still the Knicks starting lineup. If in fact, and this was the big play, like seriously, like noon today. Like if Quentin Grimes is going to get the start over, if Cam Reddish remains out and Quentin Grimes gets the start at 3K, playing the Cam Reddish minutes, it's a play that's going to have to be looked at. Now again, it's not going to be as good of a play as the Golden State plays, but again, it's just news that I still have to process before finalizing stuff. But I think overall, we can talk about the individual plays and whatever. I think it's pretty safe to say that I don't need that much exposure from the first two games on this slate. This 2 7:00 games, the Orlando game and the other one. What did you look at today? What are your overall thoughts on the NBA? You could talk as little or as much as you want.
Oh, I'm okay to talk a little bit. It's a lot better than it was. I got some numbing stuff. So I the only thing I would say about the early games is with DeAndre Hunter out, I think AJ Griffin is definitely in play as another 3K guy to add to the like the way I'm playing Golden State is one Poole. I think Poole's in all my lineups right now, and then I'll play Moody. You could argue for Wiggins, but I'd play Moody, Kuminga as my next two guys, then DiVincenzo. This is not like the Miami situation. They have a ton of bodies. They will play significant minutes to three guys off the bench, so that you're going to have a legitimate rotation. They'll probably play 9 or 10 guys at least in the night's game. So I think you're playing three of them. I'm still playing three of them. I think two is okay. But that's the order I've got him ranked. In the first games, like I said, I do have a little bit of interest in AJ Griffin. He's played 30 minutes in a couple of the times he started this year, and he's put up over 30 in both of those games. He's really good. He's a very talented kid. They're very pleasantly happy with him. He was a guy who could have been like the number after his senior year of high school. He was, going into college. He was probably going to the consensus number 1 or 2 pick going in. It just sort of had an injury riddled season. So I do like Griffin, and I like Halliburton in the early games. I don't mind if you want to play Bull, Bamba, or Suggs, or Wagner. All of those guys are in play, but I don't love them. So I have Halliburton and Griffin and a little bit of Donovan Mitchell as my guys in the early games. I think this is a good matchup for Mitchell to put up 50+.
There's another, by the way, announcement that I'm waiting on, and that's going to be in Utah. Like Taylor Horton-Tucker is being projected and owned, I imagine, as if he were starting. But I just want to make sure of that before diving in. Like if Colin Sexton is starting instead, it requires a little bit of a deeper dive. So before just committing to Taylor Horton-Tucker, which may or may not be a good play anyway, I would want to make sure that I would like to make sure that he's starting.
Yeah, and I don't think the plays are all that different. You have heat check Beasley as an option.
Yep.
Horton-Tucker, Sexton. They're all there. One of them is probably going to get there, but I don't know if we need to prioritize any of it. I do like Olynyk a little bit in that game. Anyway, yeah. So that's the way I'm treating it. I think that one of the Boston spend ups, you could do the Simons and on one side and Giannis on the other side. I think that's totally reasonable. Giannis's upside point-wise fantasy production hasn't been hitting the high end of it, but I do kind of like the idea that you play Simons, hope the game stays close, and he's the reason it stays close. I don't even mind Nurkic if you wanted to get creative, but I think Simons is the better play. And so you're trying to mix in these guys. So like in my main build right now, I've got Halliburton as my spend ups are Halliburton, Tatum. I'm playing Simons and Giddey in the mid range, along with Jordan Poole and the 3 Golden State guys.
I'd like to share, by the way, something I talked about in the early video. I don't know how many people here watched it or not. I know you didn't, but I wanted to share this with you. Just something to keep in mind for the future. And I want to talk about what's going to happen with Miami today. I don't know yet, but I had just an awful take. I guess results oriented, but this was it's just like you couldn't have been more wrong with this. And it's good. You learn from it. It's something to remember. When the Heat were playing 7 guys, what I said was that don't worry too much about who's starting. They're just gonna just rotate everybody in and out. And the other thing I said was that there's just no way they're gonna have 35-year-old Kyle Lowry play 48 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And what they did,
you're right.
They treated it like a travel basketball game.
Yep.
The 5 starters played 1 million minutes, and the 2 guys off the bench played 19 and 20 minutes. Okay, so just keep that in mind for the next time that Spoelstra has that type of situation. That it does matter who's starting, and he will play them all as many minutes they can handle. So that's just a comment.
Well, I'd like to say though that I don't necessarily agree that that's the reason. I watched that game. Highsmith was the most active player on the court and seemed to have more of a burst of energy than anybody else did. I think his minutes were definitely, there was a chance that they were going to go to Orlando Robinson at one point in that game. And actually, Orlando Robinson he played the overtime and he played 32 minutes off the bench in that game. So Robinson actually he played more minutes than Jovic did, which I thought, what people were assuming that Jovic would play all the minutes. He played 30, Robinson played 32. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it was, I think it would have been a take that would have made sense if they were down by 20 in the first half or something. You know what I mean? How did you do in football?
I lost a little bit in football.
It was my first really. I had a good, not my first, but it was a really good week where I had some real chances to win tournaments, and it was a little frustrating. At the very end, I had Sutton and Adams in the afternoon in a lineup that was already in the top 10 to start the day in the power sweep for 100K. So that looked like it could happen. I ended up sixth. I needed a little more from Sutton, but I had some good shots. I had more than doubled my money on both sites, so that was kind of nice. It was nice to have all the takes be pretty accurate. We nailed the Pittsburgh and Cincinnati situation. We got the Najee Harris and low ownership, and I played 20% Pollard. I thought that there was a chance I was going to like take something down just by accident because the scores were so low, but just couldn't quite get the right pieces and too much Damian Pierce.
I'll tell you that those scores were insanely low, huh?
I've never seen a non-200 win the million before. There was a dead piece in like every lineup.
Yeah,
and clean.
Yeah, I was happy about our Najee Harris call. We were on that, even though the last one was like a garbage touchdown. He was still outscoring everybody else.
Yeah, and he was heavily involved in the game that we thought was going to go off. That had the best chance to go off.
Yeah,
and it did. The only thing I wish I would have done a little less of is play the Hurst and Boyd because I had and that was the problem is that Mixon got hurt and then you get 3 touchdown catches for P. Ryan. I had so much Mixon, like it was nuts. I had Mixon.
We didn't think of P. Ryan, huh?
We didn't think of Mixon getting hurt after playing 90% of the snaps like every week.
I have a ridiculous play for you in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean. It is pretty bad, but on FanDuel, Kawhi Leonard is $6,000.
It's so I know it feels like the thing that people will be tempted into doing a little bit. Do you think anybody's going to own him?
I think I might. I don't know.
Yeah, you got some ownership projection on him. That's what worries me as an owned guy who they pretty clearly don't want to play more than like 20 minutes.
I know.
He just started playing 5-on-5 again. He's played 24 and 22 minutes in the last two.
He can't be a GPP player, right?
I mean, like it's like what price and what ownership, you know what I mean? Boy, I don't know, man. It's a good matchup. Like he could get there in one quarter, one good Kawhi quarter, one good flashback quarter. But
all right, so I got a kind of a theoretical question. Would you play Shea and Giddy together?
I would, in general, like to avoid doing that. I think it's totally fine without a run back. But I think this is a night where it's okay. I would prefer playing, one of them with the other spend ups, like play Giddy with. I don't know, like Hayden or something.
Hello.
All right, you guys, you get to see Sheets answer the phone here.
No, that's fine.
No, I'm just kidding around. But I like each Giddy and Shea. They tend to eat into each other, but every now and then they both can go completely off. But I'd probably want to run back if I was going to play both of them. And are you asking on DraftKings specifically?
No, I was asking just on FanDuel. Oh no! Oh, you mean I just meant I was thinking about DraftKings, but I guess in general as well.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to play like somebody on the other side, it might be a little bit more interesting to me. That I do like each of those guys quite a bit on their own, and I think you've got reasonable priced Barrett, Brunson is fair, so is Randall. All of those guys make enough sense and quickly to run back.
What about the OKC trash?
It's the same as always, really. Like, you know what I mean? It's a little better today, like, because they have, what's his name's out, Poku.
Earl 3,600.
But we just see this all the time. Like, there's no reason he has to play more than 12 minutes. Like
Jalen Williams 4,300.
So, like, I had to decide between Earl as my adding an extra value, whether I wanted to go Earl, and I do have Earl in some lineups, but in my big buy-in, I decided to go with Griffin instead of Earl for Atlanta, assuming that he starts. That's the way I had it ranked, but they're close. And I think that Jalen Williams is always a good tournament play. He could put up a really big number every time he's out there. They really like him.
Yeah. What are the Golden States? Any DiVincenzo for you?
So he's a little bit further back than the other guys, but I'm not sure that that's even the way that it should have it. He'll get more time with the other unit, second unit and all that. He historically has been a decent enough fantasy producer but we've also had him let down in some of these games where you think that he's sort of going to take over. But he's, he should play more than 26. If he plays 26 minutes, like how can he not be a good play? The issue is the guard is where I like the spend ups at guard, and I like I'm just basically playing Poole in all my lineups. I don't have any that I don't have Poole. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I just have DiVincenzo a little further back. That's it, I guess. And Lamb, same thing.
Yeah, I currently have Poole in all my lineups as well.
Yeah. You know who hasn't had a good game in a long time is Joe Val, and he's down to 5,700 on FanDuel.
Is he like splitting with Nance? Is that what's happening?
He's just been losing minutes in a lot of them, but he's also been in foul trouble in a couple of those games, and they were played a 3 out of 4, so a 3 and 4 nights. So I think his minutes will tick back up as time goes on. But yeah, they were going a little bit smaller, but that was somewhat necessary because Joe Val got in foul trouble in 2 of those games. Where do you stand with guys like Simons tonight?
I just, before all this Golden State stuff happened, my comment earlier was that Simons seems like he's supposed to be a good play. And for just some godforsaken reason, he's not projecting as such. So back then, I was going to say, screw it. I'm just going to take a shot. I'm just going to play him, and I was thinking of playing Nurkic as well, or you know what I mean? Like, and just all this other stuff came out that I just kind of forgot. You know what I mean? I just kind of presume they're not going to be. It's not as important for me to force those guys in.
Right.
That's my initial take, I guess.
But I don't think like he's a force in. Like he's a guy at 7K that I think gets to 50 as often as anybody else in that range. I'd say more often. Like it's weird to me that Giddey's more popular than he is.
Well, that Milwaukee doesn't mind giving up the 3.
Yeah. I don't know. I worry about the game staying close all the time when people play Milwaukee because you never know. But if he gets even reasonably hot, he can put up 50 plus, no problem.
Yeah. You getting into any of the studs now? You getting to Giannis at all?
No, not really getting to Giannis. I think if I did get Giannis, I'd have to have Simons in that lineup.
Yeah.
That's the way I would treat it. Or Nurkic. And by the way, that's what I like about the Simons and Nurkic prices and everything. Like these guys can crack. Like they can get 50 and they're affordable. I don't think that they get 50 so much less than the 9K guys in this spot. So that's why I've got them prioritized.
Are you going to play these Clippers later?
No, not really. Yeah, people are asking the questions, and hopefully Brian's watching the show. We do the same show every time, and so people are with us for a long time asking for plays in the Discord while we're on. I never know what to write. The Clippers, Reggie Jackson's fine. I don't love it. I don't really like any of it, to be honest with you. It feels very speculative. Somebody's going to have to score fantasy points, but John Wall has been incredibly productive, like in his minutes. I mean, he put up 40 the other night. He had 15 assists in 23 minutes. That's nuts.
Terrence Mann.
I mean, everybody acts like the problem is like, what are we getting out of Terrence Mann? Like,
well, I don't know. I mean, what about Terrence Mann compared to THT?
I actually think, I think that's fair. And then why am I then I'm playing AJ Griffin in the first game instead. Right. But at the same time, like I don't, what's going to have to happen for these guys to become that much better of a play? Terrence Mann can play 30 minutes and put up 10 fantasy points. He does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you didn't comment on the Quentin Grimes?
I need him to be starting, I think.
Well, obviously, but what if he's starting? I mean, do you like him at all, even if he starts?
I think he's in play. I wouldn't guarantee. I don't think those minutes are a lock to go to anyone, personally.
Well, and don't forget the Cam Reddish minutes are not exactly the most active minutes in the world. It's like
it's standing in the corner.
and Quentin Grimes is he's like a 0.6 a minute guy usually. Also, his last game he scored 30, but whatever.
Right, exactly. So I'm a little lower on those ones, but he is 3K. If he's starting, you kind of have to think about him.
Right.
But I don't see why he would have to be a better play than DiVincenzo because those guys are going to play the minutes and get the usage. He's not going to get much usage.
No.
You need him to shoot, and he shot the ball 10 times in 32 minutes. That's more than he usually does.
So you were mentioning one of the Boston spend ups. What do you mean by that? I mean, like Tatum and who?
Brown.
Oh, okay. What's Brown's price? He under 9K?
85.
Right.
I think they're both really good plays.
No one's going to play either of those. Well, they'll play Tatum because they can.
Tatum is the highest projection on the slate.
That's what I mean. They'll play him because you can get to him.
Right. Exactly. For what it's worth, I think they both went off against Chicago in the first time they played him. I know Tatum had like 65. I guess that Brown didn't actually hit a bad game. But I like the matchup for Brown and Tatum each. So I have those guys split. I have Giddey and Shea currently split. Simons on his own in most of my lineups, and Halliburton or Mitchell.
I want to push one more possible Clipper. Norman Powell.
He's one I can usually get behind, but man, I'll tell you what, this usage he doesn't get like he used to. But he did, he had a nice game his last time out. He got hot a little bit. I think Norman Powell's reasonable. Yeah, I actually think Norman Powell feels a little better to me than the other names we mentioned. Go ahead. What I like about Powell is I think that Powell, like, he's usually, I mean, he hasn't shot the ball especially well this year. He's usually pretty active, and I think like Paul George being out is so much more significant than Kawhi Leonard being out, because Kawhi Leonard's been out for years, and we've seen what these guys do. With Paul George, who they really run everything through, it's probably going to be a lot of John Wall, Reggie Jackson, and then I think you get a little bit of Norman Powell in there.
I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, just based on like these new projections, I'm pretty sure that Wendell Carter Jr. is out.
Yeah,
because I'm getting like Mo Bamba up in.
Yeah, I mentioned I think he's going to.
Oh, you mentioned him. Okay,
I think he's going to be popular, and I think he's a good play.
5,800, man. We played 42 for him just pretty recently, though. It's like annoying.
I know. They caught up, which I like when they do, actually, because it makes it so he's not 100% owned.
Right.
And he had the game that kind of let people down a little bit the other day. Well, at least the half that let everybody down, even though he ended up fine. They do play, they'll play a little bit of that Schofield, too. I'm not saying to play Schofield, by the way. I'm just throwing it out.
Let me see if I'm still getting. I'm running this again. I'm going to see if I'm still getting 100% pool with this new more Clippers, more AJ Griffin. No, I'm still getting. I'm getting. You know what I'm getting? I'm getting 100 of both of them. I'm getting 100 of Poole and 100 of Kuminga.
Yeah, and I'm surprised not Moody's not near there too.
I'm getting I'm getting them. Just not. Yeah. It's not all of them.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of Suggs in this early game.
Yeah. I may have to you know what I may have to do? I may have to go to the later one and go play Turner instead of Griffin. I mean, Horton Tucker as a placeholder, and I can always decide whether I want to use which. Feels weird to play a Utah guy alone in that game with all the Clippers have left.
Can Jalen Suggs have a ceiling at 6,300?
Yeah, I mean he'll get into the 40s probably, or enough of the time, somewhere between 35 and 40. I would say is pretty reasonable. He's put up over 40 in 2 of the last 3.
Shea looks like a good play, obviously.
Yep. I'm forcing Jordan Poole out of one of my lineups.
Just on principle.
just because if they get smoked, I could see the DiVincenzo path, and that's sort of my way of playing DiVincenzo, I guess.
Let me know if and when you want to talk about
Oh,
football.
I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it if you want to.
Yeah, because this is it's a really, I think it's a surprisingly very interesting slate. Um, the, uh, the Arizona receivers are, to me, pretty. I mean, they're interesting as far as cheapos go.
Hmm.
And they for example, they activated Max Williams from the practice squad. I mean, from the practice squad to active, and he's 200.
So
Um,
is Steven Anderson.
and so is Steven Anderson. And the reason I bring that up is because what was going to be still might be the most popular player is the other guy from Arizona, and now his name McBride. Um, Now we're talking about like third and fourth options, right? There's still
Right.
this, you know what I mean? Maybe even fifth options, because for whatever reason the Cardinals actually like put Robbie Anderson on the field, um, even though he just literally all he does is drop the ball. And then there's
Yeah.
also like you could make a case. I mean, Rondell Moore looks like obviously a decent play. And then I'm telling you, I came up with all this crazy stuff earlier. Even like a lineup or two with Greg Dortch. Listen, they're in big trouble in this game with no Kyler Murray. So that they'll I think they'll try anything. And so I'm gonna probably get a little too much of all the nonsense. When I say too much, I'm talking about maybe 5%, whatever, just kind of slivers. But the majority of what I'm doing is that kind of stuff. Just making sure one in my lineup of all of that kind of nonsense. And as you very well know, it wouldn't be a showdown slate without a 5% sliver of use check. And there's even less of a reason for him to be on the field now with McCaffrey. But I have a little bit of him, and those are the only like kind of hoodoos that I'm playing. Everything else is just kind of normal. Where are you as far as like your regular plays? Like who do you like a captain? Like who are your favorite plays?
Yeah, I was sort of debating between Juszczyk or one of those guys, because he still gets like touches. All right, so and he has some. He actually like his projection shouldn't be 200. Like he probably should be like 800 or 1,000 or something. You know what I mean? He
Right.
averages 4 fantasy points a game. That's a pretty good number at 200. I like Kittle. They haven't really done the Kittle thing as much this season. If there's ever a matchup he could get to, this is the worst team in the league at guarding tight ends. And I like captaining him. I like taking a shot with Kittle here. Hopefully the scoring goes his way. I think that he's going to be probably the 9th or 10th most owned. He will probably have like 4 or 5% ownership at captain. And I think I'm going to gamble and play Kittle as my captain. I think Ayuk gets overlooked on these, and I always like to get some Ayuk as a main play, and he's been much more involved in the passing game. The problem is I like both those guys, but I don't like Jimmy G, so that's kind of a weird one. Getting to a lot of 3-3s, I prefer McCoy over Jimmy G. Hopkins will probably be in all my lineups. They're going to feed him no matter who the quarterback was ever. I mean, he gets too much work. And then one of Anderson or Max Williams, potentially Juszczyk. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's
I'm not playing as much Debo, which is weird because Debo is like, it's just weirdly cheap. Like for him, I mean, he used to be like 11K and 12K on these things. And I think that because his production's been a little bit less since McCaffrey's been there, but I would probably, I mean, I don't know. I was trying to be underweight on what I thought would be a really, really popular play. And I think he's only, I thought he was going to be like 60% owned, and we're only projecting him at 34% right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with the Kittle thing.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting.
I'd rather the Debo thing.
I'll tell you a couple of things that are interesting is when I ran like Saberson builds or whatever it is, I'm getting, and this was, I mean, I guess this is somewhat instinctive, is that the captain ownership, I'm actually, it's pretty spread out. There's no real guy that they're really demanding that you play in the captain. I mean, I think that the highest price, again, I'm playing like 50 lineup. I'm doing the MMA thing. I think the highest percentage I have of anybody is like 16% or something like that.
At captain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not usual, thought it was somewhat interesting.
Mhm.
Like my highest number, actually that's no 22% like Debo, and then I have like 16% Rondo Moore in the captain. Just I'm like kind of all over the place. Oh, another guy, by the way. If you want to do something funny, Keontae Ingram is not like 200, but he's not like 5,000 either. Just kind of like a backup, snipe something out of from James Conner. I don't know.
I like that actually a little bit.
So
I can
that's so I got some of that as well.
Yeah, it's weird this year. Connor really doesn't have he should get the work, like that's for sure. But it's a tough matchup. I think his ownership is a little higher than I want to get invested with. I think that Hopkins, the locks for me are the Hopkins and what's his name?
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have what kind of Hopkins do I have? Yeah, I'm kind of under on him. I'm under in that I only have I have very little of him in the captain. So I guess that gets me different immediately. And I only have like 50% of him overall, which is I guess that's under, I imagine.
Of who sheets?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's probably he'll be a little bit lower than that. Like it was being projected lower. I don't know if that's right, these projections. To have nobody at 50% on a showdown slate just never happened.
Well, but it makes sense with respect to what I just said. Is like the ownership, the lineup builds are getting you like all kinds of all over the place. It's not really just. I guess when you have two expensive, when you have what's the name, McCaffrey and Hopkins, I suppose. And I guess they take from each other to some degree. I mean, it's hard to play them both. I mean, it's not hard because you have this McBride play. Well, I think he was gonna be like earlier. I was looking at
FSMBA projections have been updated. They should be available at SaberSim in a few minutes.
What's that? What is his last thing?
What I was saying is that earlier today, I thought Trey McBride was gonna be 40% owned, but like all these other hoodoos that are kind of like popping up a little bit, like the Maxie Williams, all this stuff. All those types of guys are going to grab a couple of percentage points from him. Mm-hmm. So I don't think McBride's going to be probably more than 30.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to go to McBride. It could easily be Williams or Steven Anderson.
Right.
Let's do use check here. Use check is 600. I thought he was 200. My bad. I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, if I'll play him at 200, but can't find the 400 for him, then I got a bigger problem. I think it's exact same price. Like,
yeah, no, but it's just a matter of my last spot. I was trying to decide between Anderson, Williams, and Juszczyk.
Right.
All right, I might get out of here, finish my builds, and it's I don't know why I'm sweating so much. Anything else before we jump out of here, Sheets?
Well, I'm going to stick around because I want to talk about hockey a little bit too. So you could leave while I stick around.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Take it easy. Everybody have a good night.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm doing, I want to just talk through everything I'm doing on all my sports here. And so with hockey, I mean, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I liked Nashville, St. Louis, and San Jose, but I'm getting some more Ottawa than I thought. So that's something I thought I would mention. Nashville's going to be my highest owned, but then Ottawa, St. Louis, and San Jose, and then like a little bit of Calgary and Toronto. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I just did a SaberSim kind of run again, and that's kind of what I'm getting to. So I'm going to probably do that. I got to check for goalies just to make sure. That game's not till the Ottawa game. That Ottawa game's not till 10:30. That's great. So I'm not going to be winning anything for like a long time. Not in those contests. Oh, look at all this. And the Vancouver games at 10:30 also. Yeah, so hockey is going to be a late night. Hopefully it'll be a late night. Rich is saying terrible game by US. Oh, that's the soccer. Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Was that bad? I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether that was better than they were supposed to or worse than they were supposed to. They were a slight favorite, right? So it seems as though it played out the way it was supposed to, right? They got the 1-0 lead, and then they I don't know if it was a BS call. Or I really didn't watch the game, but I saw that the other team had a penalty kick. So 1-1 that's not going to be good enough, right? They have to win a game at some point to advance. So I'm going to make sure that in my showdown lineups, I think I probably have too much of the McBride, but I mean I got like 50% of him. Where, as Bobby's saying, it could very well go to any of these. I've only got like 5% Anderson. I do have 5% of the Robbie Anderson also, and I have like 6% Maxie Williams, and then I have I made sure to get a couple of lineups with Dortch in it. So I do have some of this nonsense sprinkled throughout. Probably a little bit too high on Debo and Captain. But I think I'm splitting hairs with that one. I think it's fine. I maybe have a little too much Debo in general. I think I have more Debo than McCaffrey. I guess that can't be right? Maybe I'll trim that a little bit. Yeah, I think I am going to trim that a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm going in. I'm just going to manually. Just going to manually do this. So I'm going to go, instead of going 20% of him in the captain, I'll just go 15. Well, this is crazy. I don't know where that came from. I don't need to have any Robbie Anderson in the captain if I don't want to. This is America, right? So McCaffrey, Debo, Anderson, Robbie Anderson. Why am I getting Robbie Anderson in the captain with a 3-point projection? I don't know what that's all about. I'm just going to leave everything as is. Just Saberson kind of yelling at me right now. Maybe I should listen. Let me just see more exposures here from the showdown slate, and then I'll take one more look at it. What I have to do is I have to come back and take a look at the Heat lineup when it comes out. 55% Rondell Moore. That's pretty aggressive. Boy, oh boy, that is very aggressive. Got some Ayuk in the captain. Yeah, this is kind of a normal one I have. I have a 3-3, which basically plays itself. Let's put it that way. So I guess I'm in pretty good shape here. Let me just make sure that there's nothing else I'm missing in the NBA. Well, it's not a big deal. I mean, I just have to come back and check the Miami lineups as well. Any other questions here before I kind of get going? I don't know why I have this Robbie Anderson showing up, but that would be quite the troll for Robbie Anderson to finally have a good game. I mean, he didn't play at all. You know what? I don't know. I can't do this. I can't do Robbie Anderson. That's just not happening. Hopkins, Connor, Garoppolo. Yeah, these are one of these just for the hell of it. I don't need that either. I don't need to count the Ingram and the captain. But decent amount of McBride. More. Maybe a little less Garoppolo. Yeah, Connor, this makes sense. McBride, maybe a little less McBride than I first thought. A few lineups of Juwan Jennings, I guess that makes sense. And a little Dorich Anderson, use check, as I mentioned. And where's Maxey? Yeah, I gotta get some Max. Max Williams, let's get him 5%. Let's make sure that works. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be discretion will be the better part of valor there. I won't get as much of these McBrides and stuff like that as I thought. Max Williams, Steven Anderson, Dortch, use check a little bit. Ingram, still have a decent amount of McBride. Okay, I think this makes sense. And in captain, I mean, I don't really need to have. Yeah, I agree with Bobby. I don't really like the McBride in the. I mean the what's his name? Garoppolo in the captain all that much. So we'll have some Connor. Let's get Samuel, Hopkins, Connor, Moore, Garoppolo, Ayuk, McBride. McCaffrey makes sense. One of these. Okay, this works. I talked through that. I talked through that amongst myself, but I just don't think these guys are going to need to do that much to win this game. San Francisco. Okay. Ayuk and the captain, that in the main build, that makes sense. So this is good for now, I think. And we'll come back after the injury news, or not Miami Heat lineups come out, and do a little bit more. Okay, that'll do it. Good luck, everybody. And let's get it.